Hi, this is Ned Siegfried from Siegfried and Jensen. As proud sponsors of BeliefCast, we hope you are inspired by Todd's weekly podcasts, which contain so many courageous stories of recovery and personal growth. Remember, it's not what happened in the past that matters, it's what happens in the future. We invite you all to work hard and be optimistic about your future. Enjoy today's podcast.
Hey everyone, this is Todd Sylvester with the Todd Inspires BeliefCast. Welcome to the You're OK Mental Fitness Studio. I would like to thank our sponsors, Ned Siegfried, Luke Peterson, and Todd Bradford with Siegfried and Jensen, Mark Richards with Wasatch Recovery, Colby and Mackenzie with Thread Wallets, Drew Peterson with First Digital, Greg Jackson with Mountain West Spine and Orthopedics, and Travis Whitaker, the owner of Living Recovery Interventions. And also, I'd like to give a shout out to Paul Cardall. The music that you hear at the beginning and the ending of these episodes is by Paul Cardall. He's an amazing person, and he's been one of my heroes for years. So thanks to all my sponsors and Paul Cardall for believing in me. I love you guys so much. Please enjoy this next episode. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks to my sponsors that we just talked about, and thanks to you once again for tuning in. I'm so grateful to be here with you guys. Again, this is another episode of the Todd Sylvester's BeliefCast. We're trending, and we are making a difference in the world, and it's so great because it's because of you, and then also the guests that we have on who come on and they get vulnerable and they share their stories, and it inspires me because I get to be here firsthand with them. And I know it inspires you from all the comments that I receive. And today I'm joined by a really amazing person named Joshua Hall. Joshua, thank you for joining us.
Hey, I'm excited to be here.
Yeah. Joshua Hall, I've known you now. It's been well over a year, I would imagine, at this point. Probably even closer to 2 years.
That's right.
Is that about right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So a little bit about Joshua. He is a husband, father, entrepreneur, singer. Guy loves to sing. He's going to talk a lot about that today. He's had a few amazing inspirational epiphanies this week, and I can't wait to hear about him. He's a tennis player, and he's also recovered from pornography. He was addicted to that, and he's going to open up about that. And that's not the funnest subject to talk about, but I'm grateful that he's willing to talk about it. His energy and love for life is contagious, and I can agree with that. You are one of the most positive people I've ever met. One thing I love about you too is, Joshua does a lot of work for me. If you've seen my beautiful website, if you've seen my beautiful logos, if you've seen the beautiful BeliefCast logo, it's Joshua. He's the one that's doing all this. So I've not only know him on a personal level, he also helps me with my business. And your work is fantastic, by the way.
Well, thank you.
I just love it. You're at a marketing agency called Webinauts. Did I say that right?
Yep.
Where you empower small businesses to make smarter marketing decisions through marketing data systems and coaching. You have a personal passion for getting people to sing. I don't know if that'll happen today with me, but your goal is to help millions of people understand and utilize the health benefits that singing can bring into their lives. He's performed all over the East Coast and in an Acappella group. Did I say that right? Acappella group.
Yep.
This led him to work with performers in Branson, Missouri, and now in Utah, including singing with Debra Bonner, who's also on my podcast.
That's right.
She's an amazing woman. So shout out to Debra. You're awesome. And so Joshua, let's get right to it. Tell us a little bit about where you grew up and a little bit about your family.
Yeah. So I'm the second of 7 kids, and got an older brother, 4 younger sisters, and then another younger brother. And we moved a lot. I was born in Vernal, Utah. Lived in Logan, lived in Cheyenne, moved down to Las Cruces, New Mexico, then to Amarillo, Texas, Muleshoe, Texas, Hatch, New Mexico. But most of my, the end of my junior high and all of my high school years was in Muleshoe, Texas.
Okay.
And my family owned a print shop. Most of all that moving happened because my dad was getting new job opportunities, and we weren't afraid to go with the flow.
Test it out,
and gave some pretty amazing experiences in all those areas. And then I went and served a mission in Porto Alegre, Brazil, for 2 years, and then I went to Southern Virginia University after that, and met my wife on the tennis team. We were both recruited for tennis there. And,
oh, really?
yeah,
okay.
So we both played tennis there for the team. That was the first year that they had an official. It switched from a club team to an NAIA at that time.
Oh, okay.
Division, and now I think they're NCAA Division III, I think now. But
who's your favorite tennis player? Who'd you follow when you were growing up?
So it was Pete Sampras and Andy Roddick were kind of my first ones that I really connected with.
I wasn't into tennis, but I really loved watching it. I thought it was amazing. My person was Boris Becker. Yeah, I loved how just gritty he was, and he was always diving. It seemed like, that kind of guy. And so anyway, I was just curious on who you followed.
Yeah, now I watch. I mean, definitely I love the Williams sisters, and I love Roger Federer and Rafael Nadal, and a lot. There's just a lot of good energy in the sport right now. Yeah, so it's fun to watch.
And it seems like everyone you just mentioned, they're just good people too. Mm-hmm. Outside of that, it feels that way.
Yeah, and that's what really attracts me to the tennis players I like. Is they're good at their sport, and they tend to be good people.
Yeah. Right on. So you met your wife, and
I like to say I fell in love where love means nothing. Tennis scoring is 0 is love.
I like that.
But
that's good.
Yeah. So I worked with her, and it was worked with her. I just really had to chase after her, and we now when we tell our story now, it was like one was really interested and the other wasn't, and then it flipped, and then it like flipped back and forth several times, and then we finally were on the same page, and we got married, and we moved to Branson, Missouri, where I worked with a performance group called Debra. Helped kind of the beginnings of a group called Prince Ivan. Worked with pretty much everyone that was out there, Andy Williams, the Osmond brothers, and a lot of others that were in that area. That just great entertainers, great families that live out in Branson. Fun place to live. We were there for 6 years. And we had 3 kids during that time, 1 boy, 2 girls. And then we moved, and I felt like my life was kind of at a wall. I just couldn't figure it out, but it was like Heavenly Father was like, you're done here. And I fought that feeling for a year. And finally I was like, all right, honey, let's move to Utah, because we were expecting our 4th child, and wanted to be near more family. And by that time, my family had all kind of migrated back to Utah, and so we took a leap of faith and just came out here. Had a few little things, but they didn't really pan out super well. But then got a great job in marketing and in print publication. And then it just kind of, opportunities grew there. And then I managed a snack delivery company for a long time called Snack Dash. And that was so fun, just stocking break rooms and things for all the big tech companies.
Okay.
COVID hit, and no one was in the office anymore.
Yeah, no one needed snacks.
Yeah. And so I kind of downsized myself, and my brother-in-law owns that company. They're picking back up, doing great things now. Good. But I took that as a kind of launch into my own thing with my friend Paul Moore and Patrick Ross, and they invited me to join them on a marketing agency endeavor. So I did that, and that's when I met you. And
you guys do excellent work, and seriously, you guys are the best of the best, in my opinion.
Thanks.
Because I've had a lot of marketers and graphic designers over the years, and I think what's so good about you guys is you follow through with what you say you're going to do. Like, I can't tell you how many I've worked in the past. There's no follow through, 0. And you guys are really upfront, like, here's what it'll take, and you always follow through. So I just want to give a little props to you guys.
Thanks.
That really does stand out, that you guys live up to what you say you're going to do, and that's pretty rare in my opinion.
Well, that's a big part of my life,
Yeah.
like what's important to me, what I value. And,
Yeah.
And that's one of my driving principles.
Really? So let's go back to as a child. What were some of the principles you learned from your family that, you just mentioned that one, but is there some things, some lessons that you learned that stand out to you?
Yeah. I mean, we had, there's 7 kids in our family. And, so we,
A little crazy and wild, right?
Yeah, it was always, but it was a lot of fun. And, my mom, she loved to play pranks and stuff on us. Like she'd take our bowl of cereal, like we'd put milk in our cereal, turn to put the milk away. And then when we looked back, our cereal's gone. And we had to run around the house trying to find
like where to
what
go.
Closet mom was hiding and eating our cereal, and we worked hard. My dad, he's just, a really hardworking man, and but he always also loved to have fun, so he'd include us in some of that fun, and we just did a lot of things as a family. We always traveled as a family. I would say that traveling as a family in that many people in one small vehicle, like we'd our van or whatever, we'd travel cross country and go do things, and that time in the van was critical to our development. And we did a lot of like in Muleshoe, Texas, the closest church that we attended was in New Mexico, 45 minutes away.
Oh, wow.
So every Sunday, every youth night on Wednesdays, that was our drive. And then
Really?
we'd go to Roswell, New Mexico for our stake dances and stuff. So a lot of time was spent in the car, and we sang a lot. We had a lot of great discussions.
Yeah.
We listened to a lot of great audiobooks and stuff together. And so that I really cherished that time in the vehicle, and growing as a family in that way. But we also worked together in Muleshoe. We owned the print shop, and that was our family farm.
Oh, really?
And
Okay.
so we would
Everyone would pitch in and help out.
We had a system. We did the in Texas, football is everything.
Oh, yeah.
And so, but Friday nights we were getting the program ready for, Thursday to going into Friday, we were just hammering out the football program, getting it ready so that it could be there at the game. And that was a big thing. But it taught us to just ebb and flow with life, and had a friend who was on their very first date, and I felt bad because this was their first date going to homecoming, and our programs weren't done. And so all our group of friends that were going to go out and go do something fun, they all just pitched in and helped us collate and get the programs out the door. And
really,
yeah. So that was, and we made it happen. But I did feel really bad for that friend that their first date was ruined by our heart.
Or maybe it was enhanced. Maybe they look back on it and went, you know what, that actually was pretty cool because we helped out. Right, giving service to someone.
Yeah.
Well, you're a very energetic person. You're very positive and happy. Have you always been like that? Were you like that as a kid too? Just
I would say yes. Actually, my mom jokes that when she gave me and my older brother a brown bag, and she said, "Go find some treasures." She just was. Get out of the house.
Yeah,
go
leave.
So a little while later, I come back and my bag is full. I've got rocks. I've got chewing gum wrappers. I've got all these things. And she's like, oh, as I'm explaining with the excitement. And also my headboard had treasures. It had like crusts of bread and other things. Like everything was a treasure to me. But my brother, when she asked, he was like, Casey, where's your present? Where's your stuff? He's like, I didn't find anything good. And I think that was a very moment for my brother because he's a very positive person too. But that definitely, that's me right there trying to find the joy in life and all of it stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I can, just again, rubbing shoulders with you for a couple of years. That's just how you come across. You're very positive and happy, and I'm sure I know you're not perfect, but I never seen you frustrated. I know I call you a lot, and I keep thinking, man, he's probably like, oh boy, it's Todd again. But you just have such a good attitude about everything. It seems like.
Yeah. And life experiences have like, and I'll say that going into the pornography stuff.
Yeah, we'll get there for sure.
Like I did have an idea of a front that I wanted to put. I knew what I wanted to be.
Yeah.
But like, and so I kind of crafted that as an image, of who I knew I wanted to be,
Mm-hmm.
but it wasn't always like what I actually felt.
Yeah. Well, and I think anyone hearing your voice right now could relate to that. I think we all had times in our lives we wanted to be and be a certain way, but yet sometimes our actions weren't backing it up. I think that's the human experience. We're trying to get those two in a line, right? I think that's the goal.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about that. You're pretty open now about having an addiction to pornography, and just for our listeners, I'm sure they have a family member who might be struggling with that, or they know of someone, and maybe they're not sure, how to talk to them about it. But I'm just grateful that you're willing to come talk about it. When did that start, and maybe just kind of talk about that journey?
Yeah. So I think I'm still trying to figure it all out, like all the beginnings and stuff, how it really led to it.
Yeah.
Like some of the things that I felt are like, I remember, I don't remember exactly what happened, but it feels like a bully or something. But there was a moment in my childhood that I remember just like kind of cutting off my emotions. Like, I'm not going to let you get to me. You don't get to know what's inside of me, really. And then I just kind of started to live in my head and kind of disconnect from emotions. And then what I was feeling outside was like how my brain thought that emotion should be expressed or whatever,
Yeah.
And then when I was about 15, 16, I was lucky. I mean, most people nowadays it's like 9, 10, they've already experienced pornography but I was like 15, 16, and a kid on the bus, he pulled out pornography and just shoved it in my face, because everyone knew I had high standards. Everyone knew that
It's almost like we're going to get him to look at this, whether he wants to or not.
Yeah, exactly. And I saw that, and I didn't know how to get that image out of my head.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was like, I was already kind of curious at that stage anyways. Like,
right. Yeah.
And so it was like, I didn't know what to do really with that image, and it kind of festered. And then like, because I got away with that one thing, and it didn't like seem to change too much, or what. I didn't recognize that, what was happening. But then I found some magazines or other things, and so then I would try to hide, and I could get away with little things that I could hide and figure this out, what's going on, explore that. But I didn't have anyone, I didn't know how to talk about what I was going through.
Right.
Like, and it wasn't, at that time, there wasn't a lot of people talking about it. And so it wasn't a generally like... Yeah,
it's a little more talked about now, but back then, not so much, right?
Yeah.
Which made it harder for you to be able to express.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so finally I talked to my older brother about it, and he revealed that he was having some of those issues. I don't know to the extent what he was going through, but he had similar feelings about some of the things. And my dad is my hero, and he still is, will always be.
Yeah.
And when we approached him, I know he wishes he could relive this moment and would totally do it differently. But when we approached him and talked about it, because we had great conversations before about other stuff, but when he and I approached our dad, we said, we told him what was going on and what the issue was, and my dad's a jokester, and his response was, "Oh, my sons are perverts," and he just kind of joking and trying to make make the situation so he could tie it. Yeah. So, but like it hit me so deep that I was like, I'm not going to talk to you about any of this ever again.
Yeah.
Like, and I've talked to him since that.
But that's what you were thinking in the moment.
In that moment, I was like, man, I can't do it. And so I shut off for a long time. I was like, I'm going to figure this out on my own. So, cause I was already in that habit with my emotions already before that. And so I tried, I tried, and I did pretty great. So to speak, I never liked it, like that feeling and stuff. And so I was always trying and working and doing good things, but to help me, but I could never just get rid of it all the way, you know. And then I went on a mission and was doing pretty good. I mean, Brazil, it is tough to focus, like, because there's beer posters all over that are way worse than
I can imagine
what are in America. But but I got pretty good at shutting those things out and just really focusing on what I was supposed to do and focusing on people, trying. And then after I got back, I went to Southern Virginia University. There's a lot of great influences around there. And I just kept working with it. And, but even when I started dating my wife, I told her about it. I was becoming a lot more open about it.
Yeah, you didn't want to hide it from her to say, hey, here's what I've been struggling with.
Yeah, and so I was so grateful, as she told me later, that the Spirit told her in that moment when I talked to her about it, because we were starting to talk about marriage and everything at that point, and she had this impression that this is going to be a part of your marriage for a while, but he will overcome this. And that gave her enough hope to take a chance on me.
To take a chance.
Yeah.
Wow.
And she saw that I was always trying to get better.
Yeah.
And that I was always trying to work on it. But I couldn't just get the traction that I wanted to just shut it totally out.
Right, yeah.
And worked with a lot of different individuals. The bishops of our, or it would be a pastor in other congregations. I worked with them. Got advice, counsel, and but when we made that faith move from Branson, Missouri to Utah, we were put in we were in Bountiful, Utah, and the area there, all the churches in that area were having great success against pornography, and it was something openly talked about. They were having Saturday events where speakers were coming in, and and I met with my church leader and expressed my struggle and my desire to just be done with it. And he said, I want you to go to this group. It's called Men of Moroni, which was it was up in Kaysville, so not too far from there. And he said, I want you to go through that program. And I was like, done. I want to be so done with this. I want to do
whatever I can.
Yeah. I haven't been able to figure it out on my own.
Yeah.
And so I went to that program, and the first day that I got back, I came to my wife. I was like, honey, this is it. Like, this is what I've been looking for. This is what I've been praying for.
Yeah, right.
And this is, like, I'm going to heal. Now I need you to heal. And like after that, like she totally like let it all out, all the pain and everything that I was like, I had been causing, and her self-worth and other things that had affected her.
So she really opened up in that moment.
Yeah. And she's like, it's not fair that he's healing. And I'm like, all these really feelings, like, she's like, what's going on?
Yeah.
And so thankfully they also had a program called Women of Worth, that coincided with the program to work with that. And so as I was going through that, she was attending the Women of Worth, and we both, like, it was just tense for a while, but as we went through it and we started learning the tools necessary that to really make effective change, like that started us on an amazing trajectory together as a couple and individually in our self-worth and in our ability to move forward. And then I went on to become a mentor in that same program for a while, and I did that for about another year after.
Which also probably at the same time was helping you. Yeah,
it was. But then it came to a point where it was like, Heavenly Father, I needed another level. I wanted another level.
Yeah.
And I felt like I couldn't get that there anymore. It's
just needed to move on to something.
Yeah. And so I just kind of, I was like, all right, what is that? And then, that's when I started to get involved with, like your mentality and stuff, the stuff that you, like, I am recovered.
Yes.
Like, it's possible to be totally recovered from this and not linger on like I'm always going to struggle with this.
Yeah.
I'm like that mentality really blew me away.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, I've felt that. I've known that could be possible this whole time. And so I started to just do more of that mindfulness and stuff.
Yes.
And actually down in an area, I saw my sister and my brother-in-law, they hired a coach to work with them as a couple, and they started seeing they just carried themselves differently.
Yeah.
And I was like, I want to go through that too.
Yeah.
And so my wife and I started doing that, and I started to see some improvement, but I felt this thing inside of me that was like, this has to get out, but I'm so terrified of it. It's our light that makes us most afraid, right? Not our darkness.
Yeah, right.
And that is so true to what I was feeling. I was like, I was realizing that this whole time, a lot of the whole struggle with pornography was because I was running from that feeling.
Yeah.
I knew I was meant for so much more.
Yeah.
I knew it inside, and I was afraid. I was afraid to express that. I was afraid to like grow that. And so I didn't know what to do with that feeling. But recently, this last week, actually, I was just, so for months and months, I've been struggling, like, what is my purpose? What am I doing? What is that feeling that I feel so strongly inside?
Yeah.
And I attended an event and where Baron Baptiste was speaking. Now he is some call him the I guess he would be like the father of modern yoga. Like he made yoga, the beginnings of it, cool.
Yeah.
And where and he talked about how his parents, I think his dad was like Mr. Universe and his mom was Mrs. America, and they were really into, back in the 50s, they were really big into the whole Eastern yoga, meditation, and kind of the religious side of it, and he got teased to no end in San Francisco at the time, and they had the only practice in that area, and he got gum in his hair, beat up, all these things, and so he hated yoga so much. But then when he was in college, he was dealing with stress and like, what can I do with this? And then he realized he had the tools to deal with stress.
Yeah, right.
And so he kind of stripped it down, and he was a personal fitness coach at the time, and at the end of each of his sessions with his clients, he would start to add a little bit in, and they would ask for more and more and more. And so that yoga movement kind of started. He coined the phrase power yoga. So that's kind of the area that he was focused on. But as he was sharing his story, all of a sudden, like a vision opened up before my eyes, like of my way of coping with stress, of what do I do, and what is my superpower in that? Because you always say, like, your addiction is your wake up call to your greatness, right? Or
absolutely, yeah,
yeah, and
100%.
And so
your superpower, man,
right? And so I realized that I love to sing. Like, sometimes I say I have musical Tourette's because it just like comes out of me without me thinking about it much. And I've realized I've just always felt like, man, there's got to be some secrets in there, some science of why singing is so important. And so in that moment, I saw myself on stage with thousands of people, and I was walking them through like tonation and stuff and helping them improve their lives through singing. Like, and the phrase "sing your way to better health" just came across, and I started to see the equipment and the things that could help me, the people that could help me, the things that will happen to help me along this journey. It was crazy. It was like this whole thing just opened up before my eyes. And in that moment, I was like, this is what I've been being prepared for. This is what I have been prepared for. And so at the time I had no idea. I just had a feeling that there was a benefit to singing. But in the last several days, because it hasn't been very long, but in the last several days, I've acted on that feeling. And I actually hired Debra I want to learn from her, because she does this kind of teaching.
She does. She helps people that way. Yeah, she's amazing.
So she has a program called Your True Voice, which I've been around, yourtruevoice.com, and it helps people really unlock their true voice. And as I've been around it, I've just really enjoyed that feeling. But like I've looked more at the science, and singing helps you with your mental health. It helps you with your confidence. It helps you with your social interactions, like choir singing and stuff. It really boosts that. It even reduces pain and so much more. There's so much research out there. Initially, I was like, I don't know if there's any.
Yeah, right.
But I'm willing to find out. I'm willing to do the research myself. I like, that's the kind of drive that I felt at that moment. I was like, I'll do whatever it takes to show that this is a thing, that this can help you in your life. It can be one of those tools in your box. Obviously, our toolbox needs to be full of a bunch of different tools, but that's the tool that's for me to help the world recognize.
Yeah.
And I do use singing all the time, in the car, in the shower, in just walking. Like I just sing, and that's my way of de-stressing, your coping, and it's helped me in so many ways. And the last several months, since like May, I started every Sunday I would just record myself, and I just start singing a hymn or something to just kind of make Sundays a special day for people. And initially it was like, oh, this is going to be something for other people, but as I've done it, I'm like, whoa, this is for me. It's opened me up.
Right.
And so it's been so helpful for me to do that and put myself out there a little bit more. And so I want to help people to utilize this gift that they were given at birth, you know? And because as babies, we were unafraid to use that gift.
Yeah, we do whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I always say it to my clients, it's not being, we're not trying to get you to be childish, but to be childlike. And childlike, we were believing, we loved everyone, we loved ourselves, we had faith as big as the universe, right? We did whatever we wanted to do, and we didn't worry about what someone might think or not think of us. Yeah. Right? And that's basically what I hear what you're saying, right? Is that correct?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. Wow. What a story. Thank you for sharing that. I know pornography is pretty prevalent out there. A lot of people struggle with it. A lot of my clients who come see me are struggling with it. And it's not just male, it's female as well. And it's unfortunate because they get caught up in that and it can feel like I'm never going to get past this. I mean, this is one of those things that I'm going to have to deal with the rest of my life. But I love what you said, because it's what I teach as well, is I really believe you can be recovered. And I've seen it. If people go, Todd, where do you even come up with that? Well, one, in my own life, I've had my own bouts with pornography, especially back when I was in my addiction with alcohol and drugs. And back when I was going through it, you definitely didn't talk about it. It was like you kept that silence, man. There's a lot of shame around it. Mm-hmm. But I'm here to say you can be recovered from it. And I know that's what you're saying too. And doesn't mean it's easy, right? It took years. It took you fighting and doing whatever you could to figure that out. But man, that gives everyone listening to this right now who may be struggling with it, or if you know someone, this gives them hope.
Well, and that's the thing that I was like, why I'm willing to share it. One, just being open and vulnerable, bringing it out of the darkness that it is hidden in, is important for it to heal.
Yeah.
And then two, like, when you, the effects of pornography on you as a person, it checks you out of life. Yeah. Like, you become an observer. You don't get to live life. And you don't get to experience all those things. And for the longest time, I found my self-worth in making other people's dreams happen, because I couldn't dream for my own self. I couldn't feel like I was worth, any of those dreams that I had. It wouldn't actually happen to me. Anytime I dreamed, it actually made it harder, because I felt just worthless. And so it would drive me back into pornography. Yeah. But when I started to heal and started to rip away those layers and started to discover myself again and come alive, after that, I mean, we're talking about 20 years of dealing with this. Yeah. And just as I ripped away those layers, like, and I discovered the light that was already in there, that's when things really started to move. And that's when, making a commitment and going, that's why that's so important. You talked about that for my work. When I say I'm going to do something, like, it's important to me that I do that thing, like, because I'm committing to myself, and little things are big wins. Like, I actually, today's the first day that so for at the beginning of the year, I was like, well, not the beginning of the year, but several months ago, I decided I was going to go off sugar, like added sugar. Right. And I made that, I was like, okay, that seems like a huge thing. Yeah. Because it's in everything. But I made the conscious choice to be aware that I was going to cut that out. Yeah. And as I was doing that, like, my kids knew my goal and everything. And so they would say, hey, Dad, no, Dad, that has sugar in it. Oh, thanks, here. And then it gave me enough confidence to do another thing that I'd really wanted to do, is I wanted to try going without meat for a few months. And so today's actually, I made it 3 months, and today I can eat meat again.
Let's go get a hamburger. That's right. Let's do it, man. Double decker.
It doesn't even seem like that enticing anymore. Right, but like, I made a commitment to myself. Yeah. And I set reasonable boundaries. Sure. Like, reasonable, like, I did have some meat in there when, because I as part of my goal, I was like, I know I'm going to be invited to summer parties and things. And if it's a really inconvenience, exactly. But
no, I like that. It's just being reasonable and, and doing it the right way. Well, I'll tell you, I love that power of a commitment. I was just talking to a group before you came in here at Wasatch about that very thing, about when we commit to ourselves, it's amazing what we can do. And I think what I'm hearing you say, Joshua, is that because of what you went through with pornography and going through that battle and that fight, and then, and then getting to the point where eventually you were committed, like, I know this is it, I'm moving forward now. You almost basically taught yourself you can do anything. Is that fair?
Now, yes.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah. Because, and the more I share it, and take away that attachment that it had on me as a person, like as sometimes a lot of times we claim that as part of us and don't keep it separate. Like, I'm a pornography addict. No, I am a person who was addicted to pornography.
Yeah.
Like,
it doesn't identify you in this moment.
And so the more I separate that from my identity and just put it out there and
amen. Did you hear that, people, what he just said? Did you hear that? Yeah. I used to be a drug addict or alcoholic. I'm not anymore. I'm clean.
Right.
Right. And I love that because that's the truth. And you're smart enough to know if you go back to it, you're probably stuck back into it again. Right. You get that. You're not trying to deny that it's not there. But the truth is, what you're doing is you're actually really back to who you were before it ever started.
Right. And I like that person a lot better.
Yeah. No, that's amazing. So amazing. So what would you tell someone right now who has a family member maybe who's caught into that and they're kind of frustrated, they're not quite sure what to do? I know this is a big question because I know every situation is maybe a little different and every person reacts differently.
Right.
What would you tell them? What would you say?
And I would say, going to my wife, like the very first time that I told her, she didn't overreact.
Right.
And that made all the difference in the world.
Yeah.
And she never overreacted when I would.
Kind of a little different than what your dad did. Even though your dad was kind of half joking.
Right.
It wasn't that hurtful, maybe shameful thing.
Right. And so I've got both. And so I was able to talk to my wife always. Like, I'd struggle and I could go a few days without hiding it or whatever. But then I'm like, honey, I struggled again. And I'd come to her and she is a saint of a woman. She's incredible. But experiences that she had where she overreacted to a friend and then a friend didn't want to talk to her, share anything else with her, led her to be prepared to help me. Yeah. And so these experiences, we can't hold them over people, we forgive, we move on. Each of those experiences that people have are preparing them for different things in their life.
Yeah.
And so not dwelling on the past and not being too anxious about the future, just enjoying the present where we're at. But what I would say is, like, make it okay to talk about. Yeah. And for example, my oldest son, he ran into he got sucked into some seductive material, and we caught it, my wife and I, and we're like, okay, how do we handle this? And we're just praying and like, I want this to be an amazing experience talking about him, because we had these conversations with him. We'd read, there's great books out there that you can read to your kids about good images, bad images, and things, but when it really happens, then you're like, you feel horrible. You feel so much shame. And so it was midnight, and I got up and I went to the kitchen, and my son woke up to go to the bathroom. I said, hey, will you come talk to Mom and I real quick? And because I also knew my wife wasn't going to sleep thinking about it. Yeah. And we walked in and we sat him down and we're like, you've been carrying a big weight lately, haven't you? And so we just shared what we had found, and he's like, oh, like you could see him just like relieved that we were addressing the issue with him and talking, because he had been
in a loving way.
Yeah, and super loving. Because I was also noticing in his behavior that he was pulling away from the family. Yeah, he was pulling away more and more, and I was just wondering what was going on. And then we had this gift of finding it, and we talked to him, and my wife was like, "Do you see your dad? Is your dad a bad person?" It's like, no, and he's gone through this. He's struggled with this, and you're not a bad person either. You're not That's awesome. And so being able to talk about it. And I talked to him the next night about it, and he was alive. He was just so filled with light. He said that he went back to his bed and just cried in gratitude that weight had been lifted and that we had that conversation.
That's awesome.
And now he and I are on a different level together, and our conversations are open and
wow.
So
that's amazing. For any parent listening right now, that is a very effective way. You want them to feel like that they can come tell you anything.
Yeah.
Because if they don't, they'll shut down, they'll hide it, and they'll just struggle, and it gets worse.
Yeah. And how thankful I am that my dad did react the way that he did, so that it prepared me for that moment.
Absolutely.
And so,
I'm always saying this: life happens for you.
Yeah.
Think about it. Life happens for you. I mean, all these epiphanies and these spiritual experiences you're having now about singing and how the health benefits and all this, you're just seeing it because you've been in the darkness. And now I have a beautiful saying. It's not mine. It's James Allen. He says, the greater the darkness, the greater the light.
Yeah.
And that's really what's going on. And I'm seeing this through your story throughout your whole life, actually. And man, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I'm going to kind of ask a similar question, but a little different. If there's someone listening to your voice right now who's struggling at this very moment, they're in a dark, dark place, what would you tell them?
I would say there is hope. This feeling that you feel, it may seem I couldn't comprehend it. I couldn't comprehend that I would feel the way I feel now back then. You feel so trapped. You may feel just so lost and so worthless, but you are so worthy. You have so much greatness in you, and there is hope in the path. Enjoy the journey. Reach out. Get the darkness out of you. And one way is gratitude. Gratitude is a huge key to helping start to unlock that.
Sure. Yeah.
Finding gratitude in everything
That's
around
a big
you.
one, yeah.
Yeah, but also there are tools. Learn the tools. There are so many. We live in a day when the tools and resources to overcome these things have never been more prevalent. And so it takes just taking that step in, go to a therapy session, put yourself out there, become vulnerable, and you can start your healing process. Get it out from you so you can better clear your vision and be able to see it for what it is.
Yeah. Wow. Beautifully said. Great advice. Thank you for sharing that. Well, Joshua, I think the world of you. You're an amazing human being, and I'm a better person for knowing you. And anyone listening to this right now, they're better for it. So thank you for being willing to come share your story with us today.
Thank you. And I feel the same about you.
Oh, thank you. That means a lot. I'm grateful to have you on my team, man. That's awesome. Well, there you go, folks. I told you this was going to be another good one. I know I say that all the time, but they just seem to get better and better and better, man. People are amazing. I just love that people are willing to come on this show and be vulnerable and just share what they've been through. I mean, this is not an easy subject to talk about, but he obviously has no shame around it anymore. It's out in the light, like he says. And if you have a family member or a loved one, share this episode with them if they're struggling with something. And you might think it's pornography, it might be something else, but they'll get some inspiration by listening to Joshua's words, and hopefully they'll reach back out to you. If not, it gives you a good talking point to go ask them, hey, what'd you think of that episode? So please share it like you guys always do. Again, thanks to my sponsors. I love you guys. And Joshua, one last thank you to you. Thank you for all you do, man.
Thanks.
Okay. Until next time, everyone, take care.